Hello again. My name is Marika, and I will be today moderator. I think that we will wait until I will tell you more about the event and our company. So please tell me if you can hear me well and write in the chat if it's okay, and we will start. So I'm glad to welcome you to our dynamic talk by Grid Dynamics. We are very glad that you have joined us. And as I said earlier, my name is Marika and I will moderate today's meetup. So today we will listen to a technical topic from our QA engineers. Gennady Churzov and Victoria Streltsova will be sharing their experience on using ChatGPT to resolve the QA engineering tasks. But before the start, I just wanted to share some rules and tell you more about our company. So let's start with the rules. During the talk, you can ask your questions via Zoom chat. So as you can see, please chat before you're writing any questions that everyone can see the questions. And our speaker will answer these questions after the presentation on the Q&A session. So if you want to ask questions by microphone, you can also do it, but in the end of the technical speech, not to interrupt our speakers. Also, please check that you are muted during the call because it's very important. Sometimes there are noises that are distracting. And everything you want to ask or like talk with speakers, you can do on the Q&A session that will be at the end of the presentation. Yes, please check that you are on mute again. And now let's talk about Grid Dynamics as we are waiting also people to join. So about the company, I know that some of people know about our company and some of them are not, so I will tell you a little bit more. So Grid Dynamics is a leading provider of technology consulting, engineering, and data science services for Fortune 1000 corporations from financial, technological, and retail sectors. It has been operating since 2006 headquartered in California and has development centers in United States, Eastern and Central Europe. As for today, Grid Dynamics brings together more than 4,000 engineers in 13 countries and continues to grow steadily. Grid Dynamics is a NASDAQ-listed public technology service company with a core expertise in big data, data science, machine learning and AI, scalable omnichannel services, DevOps, and cloud. So here you can see a list of the clients in different sectors. There are a lot of huge companies that I think everyone knows, and we are working with them. And if you want to know more about our company or you're looking for open positions, interested in some detail, you can always go to our career website and read more about open positions, about company, about our expertise, and find on all contacts that you need. If you have a CV right now that you want to send, you can send it on our cvgriddynamics.com, and our recruitment team connect with you soon and tell you all the details. So I think that everyone joined already. So I will give the virtual mic to our speakers. Yana, Victoria, are you ready?
Yeah, hello everyone. Let me share my presentation.
I can hear the echo a little bit.
Okay, so let's start. Today's topic is ChatGPT game changer for QA engineering tasks. Okay, let's start. So I'm staff quality assurance engineer in Grid Dynamics, working more than 4 years in the company with overall experience more than 11 years. Beside that, I'm also working as a mentor. Victoria?
Yep. So my name is Victoria Streltsova. I'm working in QA like more than 5 years now. And this experience includes the experience of working in software development and test. And I joined Grid Dynamics about 1 year ago. So we're all set to start. So, Gennady, please.
Yeah, sure. And before we will start, just an additional note that ChatGPT also has some rules of sharing and publication policy. So, for example, we are also following that. And it's just a message that part of the text or code samples or something else using in that presentation actually was generated using GPT-3 and GPT-4 versions developed by OpenAI. And we can continue now. And one more thing, that inside Grid Dynamics, we also have acceptable use policy update. So it means, like, long story short, in Grid Dynamics and maybe for other companies, we have rules, like, for example, here we are strictly prohibited with no exceptions for uploading customer code, configuration files, any other sensitive information to any public forums or services, and etc. And it's actually include our ChatGPT and other AI services. So here we are using only pet projects. And we actually even asked ChatGPT about the same issues, and he generated and answered pretty the same thing, that he also have API terms of service. So the first thing here is that you need to use ChatGPT based on your laws and regulation, based on your physical appearance. And also there is several rules, like, for example, it's not okay to use ChatGPT for unethical purpose, for example, for harassment, discrimination, some violence, and etc. Other than that, it's free to use. Let's move on. Victoria?
Yep. So before we start, I'd like to mention some risks of using ChatGPT. You can see the list of risks on the slide. This is just a few of them. I consider the most important one. And first is lack of transparency. So we simply don't know the details of architecture of ChatGPT. We don't know the data set which was used for learning of ChatGPT, because it's the OpenAI chooses what data they use. And this information is not public at all. So we simply have to be careful with it when we ask this, when we receive responses. So just like that. Second one is outdated and incorrect data in responses. By saying that, I mean, it's public information that ChatGPT's data set is restricted to September 2021. So what as a result? We can have responses which are outdated and incorrect at the moment. So again, we have to be aware about that. Next thing is limitation of the chat in terms of it doesn't know context. Yes, ChatGPT's responses are human-like. Sometimes they're great sounding, but at the same time, we may have responses which are incorrect and non-sensual at all. So, but in favor to OpenAI, I have to say that this situation becomes better and better. So again, some responses are incorrect, but great sounding. Next is you cannot share confidential data. As Gennady just mentioned, in Grid Dynamics here and in some companies as well, we cannot share the data of clients to the ChatGPT. You may ask why? Because see the option one, lack of transparency. We don't know what will happen to this data. It can be dangerous, by the way, and our data may go somewhere we don't want to there. So, and last one is the chat cannot take responsibility for its suggestion. So at the moment, there are no global consensus over the AI regulations, and there are no laws about that. So all the responsibilities will go to you. And OpenAI has their own policies. So if something happens, the only responsible person will be you. So we cannot just take the data ChatGPT gives us as is. We have to check it always. This is all I wanted to mention. So Gennady, let's get going already.
Yeah, sure. And one more thing that probably we need to discuss, why actually we prefer ChatGPT in comparison with Copilot or Notion AI. We have several reasons for that. First of all, Copilot is mostly a tool for us to complete the code. So it's cannot be helpful for something like related to just writing some messages. You also cannot control what you share with Copilot. So it means like if you have a project, like every code base, like every file will be shared with Copilot. You cannot restrict which files you're sharing. So it's just easy to maintain sharing with ChatGPT and with Copilot. Comparing to Notion AI, in terms of like prices and etc., probably Notion AI has some benefit, but it could be just different topic. For now, we're just focusing only on ChatGPT because it covers both code functionality and some other tools. So let's move on. And before we actually start, you just need to prove that you're not ChatGPT because he can easily imitate human behavioral answers. So if you're not ChatGPT, we can continue. And we're starting with discussing main topics for today. So first of all, we will discuss what is ChatGPT and why it's so popular. Second, we are just discuss overview of key engineering tasks that we have here, and then we actually will decide which one could be automated. And after that, we will pick up 8 QA tasks that we have worked on, and we even share some on a short demo. Then we will have comparison analysis between how engineer will solve the task compared to ChatGPT solution. Then it will be several tasks in our experience of solving real project and pet tasks. Then we will discuss about potential future ChatGPT. And at the end, we will have Q&A session, but also just short reminders that if you have any questions, you can just send it via chat. So let's move on.
Yeah, and also wanted to mention a small disclaimer that today we are not going to dive into the technical details of ChatGPT. We are not going to discuss all the possible applications of this technology. Neither won't be discussing the moral points of view of using that. We just want to share with you our experiences of solving tasks on in our regular day-to-day practice. So just some examples of the tasks and evaluation by us. Yeah, let's go. So what is the ChatGPT in a nutshell? And the most interesting, how the chat may help us as QA engineers in our regular work. So as many of you have already known, this AI chatbot got popular in November 2022 and made a lot of noise. On the slide, you can see a simple timeline of evolution of the chat. By the way, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, or a model that can generate human-like texts based on a given text-based input. Sorry, I'm reading that. I cannot remember that. And Transformer is an architecture of neural networks, which was developed in 2017. Yes, so the basis for the chat and other similar technologies was developed back in 2017. Gennady, let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, the chat. So you can see the chat became popular among all the segments of population. To back up my words, it crossed 1 million user mark in just 5 days after it was released. And by the way, guys, what do you prefer better now? ChatGPT over Stack Overflow, or you still using Stack Overflow and Google stuff? Just interesting. What do you think? Share your opinions in chats and in our chat, not in ChatGPT.
Тут є гра Sexual Harassment Simulator.
At the end, what do you think? So, but why the chat has got not popular
Не знаю, я
like,
щось інше запущу.
in 2018, for example? Reasons are very simple. Because chat can generate human-like responses to queries, and it has basic but very convenient interface. Yeah, this is that simple. So I guess intro to the ChatGPT is done. Let's go.
Так, від Райна, але ми ще не появилися, тому раунд закінчився.
Okay, can someone just mute for a moment? Okay, let's continue. So now we are moving to overview of key engineering tasks. So probably we have QA engineers here, maybe not everyone, but majority of us. And we all do something like, for example, creation tests, test case analysis, automation, and etc. So probably it looked like something like that. But now let's divide all the tasks that we are doing onto specific groups. And for first glance, I divided it into automation testing, manual, and something between like common tasks that shared between both of that roles. For automation testing, it started like, for example, with developing, maintaining automation test scripts and frameworks. Then to fulfill that framework, you need to implement util methods and etc. And also, even on that stage, you're working with a team. So other QA engineers can perform code reviews. You can analyze automation results when you already wrote scenarios. You can conduct specific types of testing, for example, performance load testing, and probably you will run all your automations with CI/CD processes. As a manual testing engineer, it could be test case creation, execution, specific testing like regression, security, usability, and etc. And common shared task, it's like the same: smoke, regression, critical path, identifying and reporting defects, test data creation, collaboration. If you're working with agile team, you probably have some other team members, like for example, analyst, business owner, and etc. when you can identify requirements and discuss something. Also, one of the part of the job is just creating, maintaining test documentation, such as test plan, test cases, test reports, and etc. It could be some participation in a daily basis meetings. It could be daily, retro, planning, and etc. And it could be even creating some rules, KPIs that could actually help the team. But this is only about manual and automation testing. We also have some other roles. For example, it could be lead task or manager task. Let's discuss it. So for example, if you're a lead, probably you're doing something like defining strategies, methodologies, risk assessment, coordination between QA engineers, dev teams, providing some knowledge sharing. As a manager, for example, you can work on performing one-to-ones with your subordinates, assigning tasks, performance review at the end of some goals, setting goal plan. It could be hiring, training processes, interviewing. It could be something like providing feedback, conducting meeting, and etc. So it's actually a lot of stuff that a person with specific role in an organization could do as QA engineer. So now let's pick up the tasks that probably could be automated with ChatGPT. So you see, for example, for automation testing, it could be a lot. It could be starting with defining frameworks and automation test, code review, analyzing results. It's probably majority of the thing could be automated. For manual, it could be test case creation, but then execution probably should be done still manual. A common task, it could be something like, it still can help you with test data, identifying issues, creating documentations, and providing some I don't know, insight about your quality of the project. But still, you cannot automate communications within the team.
We checked the first part. We did on the first screen.
Could you please mute yourself? Yeah, thank you. And let's move on. And the same for lead and manager tasks. So at least some kind of half of the task will be automated, like it's defining strategies, risk assessment, setting goals, interviewing, and mentoring also could be, maybe not the full process, but at least something could be done. Now let's move on to discuss which of that task we actually start using, and we have some experience. It started with resolving code tasks from lead code. It's something that we can do, for example, as preparation for interview, or I don't know, for education for Java knowledge. Then we pick up writing manual test cases for the same lead code task, writing unit tests, create documentation, finding a defect in that solution when we are explicitly injected some issue. Then there was system design task for a framework testing approach, creating goal plan for moving from manual to automation skills, and compare tools for automation. And from all that list, today we will show only part of that because otherwise it will be several hours. So let's stick on the 5 from that list. Otherwise, for other solutions, code generation, etc., you can find it on GitHub repository. So you can use your phone now just to pick up that GitHub repository, or at the end of our topic, we will have the final slides that will contain every QR code that you needed. So if you miss the chance now, you can check it later. No worries. So let's move on.
Yeah. So the first task we picked is a coding task from LeetCode. Its description pretty long, so if you'd like to, you can scan the QR code again, follow the link, and you will find the task on the actual website. Long story short, it's a task about creating a method for converting a Roman numeral to a regular number. Pretty straightforward. We picked this task because it's not the simplest one, not the hardest. You can see a lot of kind of such of tasks on the QA job interviews. And also why we picked that, because there are a lot of solutions on the internet for this task. Also, we will demonstrate you at the end of the presentation a real task from the real project. And you will see that in comparison with some task which was solved many times, our task, our real task was solved not the same, because there are no solution on the internet for that. Gennady, please move on. Let's see our solutions. So on the slide, you can see two solutions, one from our QA engineer, real one, and one from ChatGPT. Also on the top of the ChatGPT solution, you can see prompt, how we formed our query to ChatGPT. Also, you can see that on the slide, I highlight a few things. What I say, just for the beginning, both solutions are pretty good. They has the same approach. They're pretty the same, they're straightforward. And in terms of correctness, both are okay. But few things. First thing I highlighted on the ChatGPT side is static word. Why I did that? By the way, yes, it's those solutions are made on Java, just to mention. And also for resolving this task, I used the GPT 3.5 to be clear about that. So static word, I think it's the great solution that ChatGPT picked that, because let's assume we want this function to be utility function, and we don't want to this function be to belong any class. So this is a great thing. It will have a good performance, and I would say point goes to the ChatGPT, because QA engineer decided to not use that. Second thing is using of specific types of collections. So on the left side, you can see that our QA engineer used linked hash map and ChatGPT used hash map. And in our case, we need this just for storing some characters. And I would say it's better to use just simple hash map instead of linked hash map, because we do not need any ordering. Linked hash map does ordering. And it has better performance. It has more sense in this case. So ChatGPT, very good, very good. Next thing, green thing, which was done better in comparison with QA's engineer solution, is using of local variables. You can see that in a cycle, ChatGPT decided to use int current for storing a specific character. It's useful, I would say. It gives us more readability. Our QA engineer again decided to not use that, but in my opinion, better to use that. And last thing, what was done actually worse in comparison with QA engineer solution is S-length. You can see it's in the red. So why I highlighted that? It's about context. Like our QA engineer knew that our input string S cannot be a null, and ChatGPT doesn't know that, and ChatGPT didn't ask us about that. So if we compare, if we put S input as string as input as null, our solution by ChatGPT will fail. So I would say it's a bad solution because ChatGPT didn't clarify requirements. So that's all from this side. I would say ChatGPT did very well. Our second task was resolve or create manual test cases. Yeah, actually title is incorrect. Sorry about that. Create manual test cases for our method converting Roman numeral to a regular number. Nadia, let's see comparison now. So again, on the left side, you can see solution by QA engineer, on the right by ChatGPT. Also, I highlighted here things that are done better in comparison to another side. Like on the left side, I highlighted stuff that was done better by QA in comparison with ChatGPT, and on the right side, what was done better by ChatGPT in comparison with QA. So you can see that our QA decided to include to our set of test cases checks for incorrect string. Like if we put as input string something which is not Roman numeral at all, like 1, 2, 3 or test, also QA decided to check null value, maximal number, and some number which is incorrect actually, but it's greater than maximal number. I would say it's great test cases. ChatGPT didn't include that to its test set, but it creates a pretty good case for checking empty string. What I want to say as conclusion here, our QA engineer used a test design technique called boundary value analysis. So he did every test case consciously, but the chat hasn't done that. It's just set of test cases, I would say random test cases, which I wouldn't use. I wouldn't trust this solution. You can say, you see the prompt actually on the slide on the right side, that I could put to the prompt something like, please generate me test cases and use this particular test design technique. Yes, I could done that. But if we suppose that ChatGPT is used by some unexperienced junior QA engineer, which simply doesn't know what test design technique to apply, what we will have? If he or she, this person just will apply those test cases to the real project, it can cause some surprising results. So I think it's fair to not put to the prompts a specific test design technique. It's my point of view. And I guess we can move on to the next task. And this task is about actual automation. Pretty the same. I used the same method, our old good method for converting Roman numerals to the regular numbers. And what I did, I asked ChatGPT to create unit tests for our method. I want to mention here a few issues I faced with when checking ChatGPT's solution. First is about grouping. On the right side, you can see a GIF of which like shows a recording of me scrolling down all the test cases. It takes 100 lines. It's very huge and cumbersome. And on the left side, you can see how our QA did that. Our QA just used grouping, and it's pretty small, it's readable, and again, we don't need all those test cases ChatGPT just created. So in comparison, you can see on the left side, it's modifiable readable tests, and on the right side, again, just random test cases, which takes 100 lines. Let's see another issue. Another issue is about naming. Again, on the right side, you can see how ChatGPT created their titles. Let's see, test Roman to ints 1, input 1 returns 1. Okay, it's very straightforward. And we can see that ChatGPT just puts the input data and output data to the title. On the left side, you can see how our QA engineer did that. It's test adding, test subtract, test big, and like it shows us the functionality that test checks. It's very convenient. And what do we want to check with this test? If you see, if you can see what ChatGPT did, it's not readable. If some other developer will take a look at those test cases, it will take eternity to know what the test actually checks. So inconvenient way of naming, I would say. Let's move on to another issue. Another issue is duplicates. It's just one example of the cases ChatGPT created. So on the left side, our QA engineer did the test subtract. It's called like that because it uses some specific operations. It's not that important. And ChatGPT created two cases for the same functionality. Yes, test checks different strings like 4 and 9, but we check the same functionality of the code. We don't need two cases for checking the same thing. Like again, ChatGPT hasn't used any test design technique for creating test cases. And our QA has a system. So it may be risky if some experienced engineer will start using the chat and this person just won't see what's wrong. So let's return to Gennady. Tell us about the next tasks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So now we're moving back from manual and automation to something from lead and manager. And here, for example, on a task, like we have a manual engineer that need to be grown up to automation scale. So we're actually asking that ChatGPT. So our prompt here is to create a plan for growing to automation engineer with a short description. So we just shared what we need and in which form. And QA engineer did the same. So you don't need to check every line. So we can just compare it more like high level. So it has pretty the same amount of topics. And it has pretty the same details, like, for example, from QA part, it's more like you firstly need to open vacancies, gather some requirements. After that, you need to choose programming languages, find some courses to know more theory. Then after you gain theory, you need to move on to a practical task. Maybe it will be optional to find the mentor. Then once you will have hands-on experience, please start to do some pet projects. And after that, you can actually start applying for a job or maybe start some project in your company. And ChatGPT did pretty the same. So he also aware that there is some guidelines already existed in the internet. He captured everything. But there is a little difference between QA and ChatGPT in terms of ChatGPT created like general list, and he doesn't know anything about a person who are already maybe experienced in something. So this is just a limitation. So if we're just asking something without providing a background, like for example, what already covered for that manual engineer, which technologies he already know, what his actual plan. So maybe he need to apply for automation skills for Java engineer, maybe for backend, for UI, for performance, something else. So actually, depending on that, it will be different goal plan. So this is the limitations that you need to work with ChatGPT. Every time that you need to create something like that, you need to keep in mind that you need to provide a lot of background information or to, I don't know, move ChatGPT to some context of that engineer. Otherwise, it will be too general solution. So, and it's also two ways of doing that. You can firstly write your solution and it will be like a human first, or you can first ask ChatGPT to create a template. It will be ChatGPT first, and then you can rewrite it and add some details or maybe ask something else from ChatGPT, because you can ask additional thing from ChatGPT or even ask him to fix his previous solution. It's also possible. Now let's move on to second task. It was compare tool for automation. Let's imagine that we are on a project and we are actually maybe not big aware of what is different between Playwright and Cypress, and we need to investigate this one. And other engineer just ask ChatGPT about that, like using prompt, tell me key difference Playwright versus Cypress testing framework. So difference here is also in high level, it's pretty similar. Both QA and ChatGPT found several things that are different. For example, Playwright support Java and JavaScript, Cypress supports on the JS, and etc. And in other ways, it's pretty the same. But here we have some focus. So for example, QA engineers already know that his project contains, I don't know, a bunch of engineers that working with Java language. So moving to a JavaScript could be an issue. But Cypress also doesn't know that. He doesn't have any background of that. So you need to firstly send to ChatGPT, okay, let's imagine that you have a team only of Java engineers. They'll make a difference of Playwright versus Cypress. But keep in mind that we need to hire or educate engineers. That will be different answer. So QA already know that. ChatGPT doesn't know that. So we need to first educate, or maybe not firstly, but then when we will receive this message, then we need to tell ChatGPT, now please fix it and remove all lines that required on the JavaScript language, and then we will have other results. So this is limitations that we need to work on. So let's move on. And so we are actually done with our tasks, and we are moving to rules of comparison QA in ChatGPT solution, and we actually have some rules. So first of all, we are checking solutions based on several groups. First one is a speed, quality, restrictions, and completeness. For example, restrictions here win if ChatGPT doesn't have any limitations and code fully resolves the task, and completeness if this solution not outdated and not required any fixes after that solution was provided. So for win, we are gaining 3 points, for lose 0, and if it's pretty the same solution, then both got 1 point. So let's move on, and there is a table that contains every task as a column, starting from lead code, ending with compare tools that we already described. And as a rows, we have our QA engineer, ChatGPT, and groups, speed, quantity, restriction, and completeness. Also, we marked everything with the colors. So green means it's win for a human or for ChatGPT. Yellow is a draw, and red when he's lose something. So, but before checking something, let's move on to the last column, is a total. And as you see, we have 35 points for QA engineer and 32 for ChatGPT. So at least for now, for our comparison, it's look like QA engineer is still better, but better for all the things except the speed. So as you see, so the biggest benefit of using ChatGPT is the speed of solution. So every task except test case and unit test was considerably faster using ChatGPT. But yeah, there is some restrictions, there is some issues, and you still need to review it manually. But yeah, the big difference here is you need a fast solution or you need fully correct solution. So this is the issue here. So now let's move on to our analysis of the results. So we already checked that at least 50% of our tasks that we described previously could be automated. And in 90% of tasks, ChatGPT solution is greatly faster than a human. When we speak about quality, so it's something like quality of the solution is 20% better if it was done by a QA engineer. What else? Also, 50% of our tasks need to be reviewed by QA engineering because after ChatGPT solution, we found some issues. For example, this test case is not valid, or it's duplicated, or some other issues. So we need to review it manually. And after that, we can either fix it as a test code, or we can ask ChatGPT to fix it by ourselves. Also, in some cases, solution was completely wrong. So it will be an issue when you ask something from ChatGPT, he returned back a code base or some answer, and it's completely wrong. It could be even a case when it's not even exist. So for example, he can return a method that doesn't exist in the library. And also there is some kind of limitations that also could affect the solution from ChatGPT. First of all, that, for example, if you're working on ChatGPT 4, we have a cap of 25 messages every 2 hours for even subscription, so it's a paid solution. And if we're working with API calls for ChatGPT, we also pay money for that. It's like 3 cents for 1,000 tokens. And 1,000 tokens is about 750 words. Now let's move on to our real task. So before that, we are checking something more like imaginable, like we imagine the situation when we need to use that. This is our experience on a project or pet solutions. We actually used it for several things. First of all, it was design an application for LinkedIn helper tool. And second from my side was a create POC for Playwright and TypeScript. For the first part of design an application, he actually did a great job. But then ChatGPT gave me an answer that probably it's not a good idea to create LinkedIn helper because it has a lot of restrictions. Because if I will use such LinkedIn helper or scrapper, then LinkedIn itself will probably ban my account. So I decided to not do that. And I focused on creating POC for Playwright and TypeScript that I will show later. But for now, Victoria can share some info about her tasks.
Yeah, and the first task I wanted to share is searching for Cypress hooks documentation and actually for specific cases of using that. So Cypress is a testing framework which I used, and Cypress provides special hooks for catching some events like URL change in the application. And this is a case when I caught a glitch of ChatGPT because it generated for me two different answers, like polar answers. And what I asked, is the URL changed hook is stable in the Cypress? And the first answer was, no, it's not stable at all, and blah, blah, blah. And I was glad about that because I needed that answer. And after I double checked and the generated answer, and ChatGPT told me Cypress hook, the URL change hook, is stable and it's well documented. This is strange. Next task is about generating practical tasks for interns. This is a case where ChatGPT made a good job because sometimes we are not able to invest a lot of time to interns tasks. I asked to create some tasks for practicing programming patterns, and I like that. It saved me a lot of times. Yes, I spent some time for double checking that, but like framework for those tasks was made by ChatGPT, very convenient. And next task about using of DTS files in TypeScript. I will tell you more about this task later in the presentation because I covered it in this demo. Gennady, let's move on.
Yeah, now I will share what was POC. So POC stands for proof of concept. So the initial task was just to install a Playwright framework and write simple login test. So we used several ChatGPT prompts. It starts in actually this background. So I just sent a message just to initialize our tech topics. So just imagine that you are a software engineering test and quality assurance engineers. You have several years of experience. Then we define in task, like your task is help me to resolve my issues, my task. You must always ask questions before you answer, so you can better zone and on what the questionnaire is seeking. So it's actually helping ChatGPT to understand that if he thinks something wrong, he can ask additional question and provide a better solution. Then we are actually moving to our main goal, to generate code for security logging into Amazon site with user credentials for Playwright with TypeScript. After that, when he generates solution, then I ask several additional things like, please rewrite this code using page object models. Could you move locators out of the method? And specific thing, like for example, I found an issue in specific method, in specific class, and I described it the same way if I will do it with a real QA engineer on a project, like click sign in method from the specific class, like for example, homepage is not working. Please fix it with some specific way, like hover is not working. Please add hover with force instead of something else. And he actually did that. And after that, I'm just, please update this method and return me back result. Now, actually, we can share what we have here. So you can open this and check our Playwright solution was written by me and was written by ChatGPT. But also, we also will have this QR code at the end. So if you will not have a time for do it now, you can do it later. And now let's actually check what was wrong with ChatGPT solution. First of all, and I just asked to do all the thing, ChatGPT generated so straightforward code without page object. But when I asked ChatGPT to do so, ChatGPT easily fixed that. But he didn't ask me, even though that at the ground thing, I asked him, please give me a question if you need something additional. Then ChatGPT used outdated version of Playwright library. So it means the code that he generated was not even compilable because I need to fix import to another Playwright version. I fix it manually, but if you don't know how to fix it, probably you will waste several minutes to Google what's the issue, what's the actual Playwright library link. Then ChatGPT generated a code using deprecated method, like for example, wait for navigation is already deprecated on the latest version. So you can manually create another method, or you can ask ChatGPT to fix that. I actually preferred way of manual creation because then I found that it's not even to update to a new, not deprecated version. It was the issue when I just rewrite it completely. Then the last thing here is just ChatGPT doesn't cover case when you need firstly hover an element and then click on another locator, like it's usual case. Like for example, you're hovering, then some menu appeared and you need to click on some element on that menu. So I asked ChatGPT to do so, and it was actually a lot because ChatGPT fixed that and even used correct locator, but I will tell about right now. So what actually was good? The first thing that ChatGPT gave me several insights, how to use functions, which method is better for typing, login password, how to close browser after the test, and etc. Because initially I'm not an expert, neither Playwright, TypeScript, etc. So for me, it was the way when I'm not an expert in some technology, and ChatGPT is an assistant that can help or even do it better than me. So we just compared. And also ChatGPT did a great job because he asked me about storing login password in environment property because he considered that sharing my password of my I don't know, Amazon account is not so safe operation. So thank you, ChatGPT. Then ChatGPT surprisingly wrote all locators correctly. I didn't provide like any thoughts about that. He automatically decided to write all the locators, so it's a good thing. So overall, compared both good things, bad things, ChatGPT solution, like immediately without any fixing, was not working at all, but it was easy to fix. So it's not like 10 minutes, it was even less. After I fix it, if I know that, for example, can use a page object model and etc. So it's easy to ask ChatGPT to fix the solution. But if you're not experienced engineer, then you will have some straightforward solutions that you need to work with. So maybe it's not good, but then also I tried to use another approach. Like, for example, I used official documentation to create all the thing by my own and then compare it with ChatGPT solution. So using that QR code, you also can check what the main issue. But yeah, it actually pretty the same. So we have differences in the code, but in overall terms, both my test case, my test and test from ChatGPT are working solutions. So it's passed successfully. And in the future, when I already know how to fix ChatGPT solution, I already know what need to additionally move as a prompt for ChatGPT, it could even help me and save time. For example, after login, I need to automate some other things, like for example, add an item to cart or something else. Probably ChatGPT will do it even better than me. Or if there will be some issues, it will be easy for me to fix it or ask ChatGPT to do so. So let's move on.
Yeah, let's continue with the DTS files task. So you can see on the slides and inputs what was I doing. So I was an experienced QA engineer, and I had a project where I had to use a TypeScript language, and I did not have this strong background in TypeScript, but I had to review the code by my colleague what was done on TypeScript. And long story short, DTS files are used for storing declaration types. And I started looking at my colleague's code, and I felt like something done wrong, but I couldn't explain that. I saw these DTS files which contained strange things like all the types which is prohibited to do. And those types were used around these codes my colleague has done. So I just could not explain what was wrong. And what I've done, I went to a TS developer, experienced one, and asked him to explain me what was DTS files are used for. And he couldn't explain me the whole theory. So in the way I understood that. So I did a request to ChatGPT and I got a pretty good theory. And I think we can move on to the next slide. Yes, so I got a solution, remembering that I cannot put the production code to the ChatGPT. I understood the theory, but still I could not apply it to my case. So what was not good enough from my point of view? If you're not experienced in some technology, yes, you will get a pretty good theory, but still there is a chance that you won't be able to apply this answer to your task. Because every situation, okay, almost every situation is unique from project to project. But what was good, ChatGPT gave me a great sounding answer. It was correct. And I just wanted to mention that I used ChatGPT 3.5 again, because Gennady used 4 version. And what my final conclusion is, what I did finally. So I went to my TS developer and just verified with him the ChatGPT suggestions. And with his help, I managed to apply this theory to my task. Yeah, you can say that I was not good enough, to not smart enough to apply this answer by ChatGPT to my solution. But still, I'm sure that for using ChatGPT, you have to be a bit experienced in whatever you do. It can be TypeScript, it can be some other technology, and still, I would not trust the ChatGPT blindly. And I would verify everything with experienced person. That's it from my side. And let's talk about potential future. Actually, this future is already here. It's like always with pretty new technology. You started talking about that, and everything has changed. Yes. So the first thing I wanted to mention is collaboration with large companies. And it happened already. Duolingo Max announced, actually Duolingo Max is a new application announced by Duolingo. This application uses ChatGPT 4 features. And actually, I think you can use it now already. I'm not sure is it released or no, unfortunately. Next is Microsoft products. Microsoft is also introducing a concept called business chat. So this is an agent that helps the user understand and make sense of their Word, Excel, and Outlook data. Also, yes, they are collaborating with ChatGPT. Google as well. It's announced that it's bringing AI to productivity tools like Gmail, Sheets, and Docs. And second thing is wide use for a large variety of tasks. Currently, at the moment, we can come up with a lot of examples of using the chat. It can create resumes, develop an essay, give personalized recommendation, can write a letter for you. But what I can say, and it's just my opinion, that at the moment, complete solving complex tasks is not possible from the scratch. Like it's not possible to ask ChatGPT about creating Android application for something from the scratch. Yes, you can ask ChatGPT questions, but you have to check every iterations. You have to verify, control, and sometimes correct every chat suggestion. So we still need someone to collect and verify data we have from ChatGPT. That's it from my side. Let's move on, Gennady. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I also have some thoughts about my estimation of potential future. So first of all, it's already actually announced and maybe it's in progress. So ChatGPT has plugin support. What does it mean? So other developers can reuse it and create their own plugins. For example, previously we are investigated how much from our QA engineering task we can automate already. But if you have plugin support, it means like, for example, if you cannot automate CI/CD for now, if we create a plugin for that, probably it also will be automated. Other thing is like, for example, ChatGPT could have integration with other AI system, with other systems that OpenAI technology already owns. Next version of ChatGPT also could support more data. So for now, we have limitations that some data are outdated, but if it will be not outdated, then probably it will be closer to game-changing things that we're already discussing. Also, ChatGPT could work not only with text, but with speech, images, video, and etc. And actually, I already saw messages about that. So probably it will be in near future, not like in next year, but probably soon. And in some day, probably it will be the same here. Like you can ask ChatGPT to write a symphony, and it will be gladly do it for you. And after that, maybe it will be even a new professions like AI queries analyst, creator, and etc. So a dedicated person who will ask prompt to ChatGPT and then doing something like a bigger project, complicated things that he can control, distribute, and even work and replace some jobs. So let's move on. As a final piece of advice, I want to just share things that I gathered after using ChatGPT for several weeks. So first of all, ChatGPT is a great solution for simple tasks. And it's also could be used as second solution or assistant, or for example, for generating templates or code samples. For example, when I use it for POC for Playwright, and it was actually succeed project, then I can reuse this code base, for example, on my real project. So it was a pet project for education and for having some template. Now I can use it on a real project. So it's great. But in reality, it means like in ChatGPT solution, we need always check it. And I already found some issues. So it means like, yeah, can trust some, but still you're checking it. And also you need to know how to use it. So using prompts, it's one of the main topic here. And we have even several things how to do that and share it with you. So the things that we already discussed is good to firstly give a background. So for example, here it could be something like, I want you to act as interviewer or any other role. Then you are describing what you want to have. Like I will be the candidate, you will be the interviewer, you will ask me a question, and etc. And actually there is a lot of ChatGPT prompts created and posted, for example, on GitHub. There is a two QR codes that you can follow. Maybe in some day, or maybe it even already created ChatGPT prompts for QA engineers. I didn't found it, but you know, every day when we prepared for that presentation, we opened Google and found something new happened to ChatGPT world. So every day something happened. So maybe it's already created. And we are actually done with our main thing. So we're returning back to our main question. So what do you think? Is ChatGPT a game changer already? So if you have your own opinion, you can write it down in messages and I could answer from my point of view. So for now, I don't think that it's a game changer and it can, for example, replace engineers, etc. We already checked that we still need QA engineers because it's still better. So ChatGPT winning only in a speed, not in quality. And still we need to check all ChatGPT solutions. So for now, probably not. But when all the issues will be resolved, we need to consider one more round of checking, is it game changer or not? And also we have a great quote of our engineering dynamics that ChatGPT is not a panacea, it's a tool and it's only as good as your knowledge. So thank you for attending that tech talk. So if you wanted to check our other QR codes, so this is the time for you. And probably if you have something to say, you can unmute. And by the way, we also will try to check our chat's questions and discuss it. And Victoria, you can also probably answer something already written in text. Okay. So.
Yes,
So, Yana and Victoria, thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to say, Yana, that we have discussion in the chat, so you can comment on this discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Yana
For example,
is looking, you can scan QR codes.
We
so
actually
if
use
someone wants to ask question
by
mic, you can unmute. Yes, also, sorry.
Anyone? Okay, so I will start answering questions from the chat. The first thing is like, it's unfair to complete on the popularly code examples. Actually, it was specific for demonstration. Victoria already answered, but yeah, just one more thing. So we decided to use that just to check how ChatGPT will resolve a solutions that have thousands of correct, maybe not, even not correct answers. So he need to decide which solution return back to us. So this is actually some kind of real example, because as a QA engineer, you're doing a lot of stuff that already described in the internet. It has both good solutions, maybe bad solutions, so practices how to do it better. So why not? So yeah, and ChatGPT also could optimize the code, so you can share your code base, and with subscription, it's allowed for a bigger input. Of course, you cannot share your product code, confidential data, but if it's some kind of util method that doesn't have anything related to your customer, or it's a pet project, you can share it with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT could, for example, rewrite the code, or just send a list of suggestions how to fix that. Yeah, I know that both naming doesn't follow best practices, but the goal for that, both from engineer and for GPT, for engineer, it was to try to do as fast as it's possible to compare it with ChatGPT. So it wasn't the case when QA engineer need to resolve it ideally, the best result as possible. It was just, okay, I need to do something, and I have a specific time, like I cannot waste thousands of years to be an ideal solution. Okay. Yeah. Also, there was a mention like, firstly, to give a background, act as a Java automation QA expert. And we actually did that in our real project task, like, for example, for Playwright and TypeScript. And if you're doing that, you increases the chances. So you can ask the same task with different words, with different prompts, and it will give you the different solutions. So using prompts, you're just increasing the chances that solution will be more appropriate and better for your specific thing. And also, as we already discussed, like for example, for the task for manager or lead, when it's more like of communications, creating documentation, and maybe soft skills, it's a good way first to give a background and context. Like, for example, who are you? How much experience you have? What is the topic? Maybe you can even post some example. For example, previously I wrote emails for my manager in that way. Then, for example, I wanted to have it in that way. Please rewrite it or something else. So this is just an example. Yeah, and of course, we have things like the more we ask, the better the response. But actually, there is a trick with using ChatGPT. So ChatGPT doesn't store any responses for you. He doesn't remember, and he doesn't have any intelligence to do it for you. Every time when you in one file sending a new request, you're not sending one request. He's sending the full history of your messages. And sometimes it's even better to start it from the scratch, just to remove already context that may be already spoiled with some incorrect questions. So for example, if at the first you tell in the background, like, let's imagine that I'm a junior engineer, and then you need to switch background to, for example, a senior engineer, it's good to start it from the scratch, because otherwise it could be some misunderstanding. He has in the whole list of messaging that you're a junior, and then you're a senior. Maybe he will do something in between. Okay. Okay.
There's another
Yeah.
question. Yes.
Yeah. Which one? You can just read it, and I will answer. Ah, yeah, I got it. New questions.
Yes.
I'm just reading from the starting and what was not covered. Okay. Yeah, and we already mentioned that, for example, Copilot, Grammarly, and etc. It's maybe not good to use because if you're not guaranteeing that you're sharing only things that you posted and it, like for the whole your repository, then it's prohibited to use. So just aware of that. Yeah, and funny thing, we are using please, thank you, and etc. as it's a human behavior, because someday maybe he will just recap everything that you messaged for him, and it will be used for some judging of our human. Yes, something else. Okay. Maybe you can unmute if I didn't answer your question. So you have a second chance. You can unmute and ask it directly, and we will discuss. And also, if you have some specific cases when you use ChatGPT and it was actually good, or maybe opposite, you also can share your results here with us, unmuting or just sending it directly to a chat. So your ideas, your solutions, something from your side?
I have one about the prompts and about the courses about the prompts. I heard that maybe, I'm not sure it's Ukrainian companies, but somewhere they use it like a courses to increase the ability of employers to work with the ChatGPT. Yes, it's a great tool that give us like a big effort with the spending less time for some stupid solutions for generating some documentation or something like this. So it would be great to have courses here. Does Grid Dynamics think about this?
For now, I don't think that we have plans for do that. So, for example, from my personal plan is to check, for example, Copilot and Notion AI. It's the first. And then if I will, I don't know, have a list of prompts that I could share with you, probably I will also create some GitHub page, or if I will find other created GitHub page, I can contribute to that page with my queries. That was really helpful. So as we already see, we have awesome ChatGPT prompts. We have ChatGPT prompts for data science. Probably there are already some notes about QA prompts. So you can search it. If it's not fulfill your request, then probably in near future, there will be some engineers that will create it for us, or we will contribute for that. But yeah, as first priority, probably I will check other solutions on the market. And then I will probably start using it in my daily basic. But yeah, we have limitations. So I cannot use it like for the product, for our customer. I can use it mostly for POC, or maybe in educational process, or something else that I can easily use and share without breaking the rules of confidential data. So this is the biggest limitations that avoiding us to use it like for every task that we have in the work. So keep in mind that we cannot use it in daily basic if our daily basic are actually working with customer data. Anything else to add here?
One more related question to the intellectual property. Right? So if I put something even not PII information into ChatGPT, but it produces some output, right? What the intellectual property rights for the output?
Yeah, it's actually a good question.
Generated by chat.
We can return back in time. And one more time. So you can actually ask ChatGPT for doing that. And there is also sharing a publication policy. So for rules of ChatGPT, if you are, for example, have some response from ChatGPT, you need to use this message like that you agreed and you are actually notifying all your subscriber to your service that part or even the full text code snippets was created using ChatGPT. And it's actually also a limitation. For example, not every client will allow to have a message for every customer that some of or part of the code was generated by AI system. Or for example, maybe you cannot use it as a chatbot for some medical checks because it should be a human who will take the full responsibility. So this is also a limitation for using responses from ChatGPT. So intellectual rights for that solution, it's closer to I don't know, shared codes that you will gather from the internet, from Stack Overflow, and etc. So for example, if you have audit in your company and audit will found that part of your code base are similar to other solution, maybe you will have some issues here. So if you generated some text, some code base, and etc., and you want to have it in your production or somewhere, you just need double check with your code about your things with your legal department and etc. So this is issue on your side, on your responsibility. Anything else here?
Yeah, does it change between the free version of ChatGPT and the paid version?
Yeah, for paid version, we have ChatGPT 4 that has, I don't know, faster, better, and more like input
the license
parameters.
Is the same. I mean, publication policy.
In publication license is the same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I see a question from the chat
Mm-hmm.
about Cyprus. Yeah, I can imagine you're not muted. Now you're muted. So yeah, this is a huge limitation, and the question is how to use Cyprus in the best way with ChatGPT if we take into account the fact that Cyprus is best used with new plugins and Chat has a memory of plugins from 3 years ago. And yeah, this is limitation which tells us that the data set is restricted to September 2021. And from my perspective, using it for Cyprus is useless, unfortunately. And usually I go to the documentation and using ChatGPT for coding tasks. That's what I do. So no good solution here, unfortunately.
I think if you try it to use like with the latest plugin, I mean, ask some question to ChatGPT with the latest update that Cypress contains, you can test it. I mean, with the ChatGPT, if it will give you appropriate answer. Because I heard that a few things are already updated. So not all information, it goes from the past. It's relative to ChatGPT 4, I think.
You mean in the newest version, it's improved, right?
Yes, but not whole information. Like, for example, if you will ask the ChatGPT what kind of cryptocurrency now, what it's the how much of Bitcoin costs now, it will not give you an answer. But in some information about the something that will not bring a big effect for the humanity, so it will give you right answer.
And is it public what pieces of information is up to date? Like, because I'm not that experienced in ChatGPT 4, unfortunately. And for me, this is another huge limitation that this lack of transparency. Is it public? That's what is actually updated, what information they use from after the 2021 year, or still no?
I can say some like correct answer for that, but I know that that developers who created ChatGPT in this moment, in this version, I mean the latest one, it's like one of the public at first. They saying they do not understand how the ChatGPT works.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, from my experience, I can say that ChatGPT gives you an answer every time, even if it's not sure. Sometimes it gives you fake article names, fake numbers, like particular numbers that isn't true. So it requires to be double checked almost every time. But as I told in the chat, it's a really good instrument when you have low expertise. Like, for example, if you need to mock database connection for your tests, or to create something transaction related, but you're not a master of transactions. So it can give you a quick start. ChatGPT is really good in quick starts in some initial codes, in initial structures. And I cannot say that it's good in some particular numbers, particular book names, even actors of the films, it could get wrong with it.
Yeah, sure. And we have other question like about paid version of ChatGPT. And for this current presentation, we used ChatGPT 4 only for my POC for Playwright and TypeScript. Every task was done with ChatGPT 3.5, and it was on a free version. So long story short, free version is good enough, but paid version has ability of bigger input. So if you need to share a big bunch of code that should be, I don't know, reviewed at one time, then probably paid version will solve your issue. But other than that, you can just split your code in a small portion and also consume ChatGPT with that code, and it will be also good. Yeah.
I think in the nearest future, we can get like company provided ChatGPT, because on the Hubbard.com, I already saw some solutions that could be started locally that has the same output as ChatGPT 3.5.
Yeah, and there is a lot of services that already consume ChatGPT. For example, for my mobile phone, I'm using POE and other services that are actually using ChatGPT and etc. And there is some free version, some paid version, and etc. So other creators are using some other things. So yeah, changes.
I mean, when it's provided by the company, you're not
limited.
Yeah,
I mean,
sharing the code.
You mean like there is no issues with confidential data?
Yeah, if the neural network will be provided by Grid Dynamics, I think we will be.
Yeah, if it will happen and we will have no such issues, yeah, it will be a great thing, because it's actually the biggest limitation that we have, because biggest threat, and it's risky just to use it for customer data. Anything else? Maybe someone can share things of using ChatGPT for their solving QA engineering task. Maybe it's not even QA task. Maybe we have someone from other discipline. Okay, no one?
I can say only that it's an awesome one for just for chatting, or if you need some letters or cover letter for LinkedIn. It's an awesome thing, because I'm not an English native speaker, yeah, so I can't create the like a big letter with the great context and so on. So ChatGPT helps me with this a lot.
Yeah, and actually I used ChatGPT for creation posts in LinkedIn to attract you for registration to that presentation, and it was a good job.
Yeah, totally.
So probably that's all.
We have one hand.
We have hand. Okay, sure.
Hi, I have a question. As a person who is looking for opportunity in the QA industry, I am using ChatGPT for my resume to be efficient, and also would like I look for keywords to put in my resume. So in that sense, if I kind of copy and paste into my resume or cover letter any words or expressions, is it a problem that, you know, like recruiter A, she just used ChatGPT to, you know, do that, and it's not very personable. Just ChatGPT did the job, and she was not putting her effort or something like that. Is it a problem?
Is it a great question? I was on some internal tech talk here in Belgrade, and there was a recruiter who actually provides some feedback about ChatGPT, and it's not direct quote, but something like, this recruiter will be happy if we will use ChatGPT because it will increase the quality of our CV and it will reduce manual and automation work for recruiters if everything will be good. So in short answer, probably they will be happy if we will do that. But only if we will use it and it will match our experience. If it will be some lie and facts that not exist in the real world, just describing our experience, then it will be a bad thing. Yeah.
In addition to say that HR uses some automatic CV analysis as well, and sometimes your custom-made CV just could not pass this analysis. So
you also need to use keywords.
Use
keywords for your CV.
Yeah, understand. And then for the keyword, ChatGPT is awesome because sometimes like we don't speak English very well. Our native language is not English, so you kind of search for it, but you're just so much trying, spend some time to do that. But ChatGPT is awesome for that.
Yeah, for example, one of the prompts that could be, for example, you have a list of achievement and you can please ChatGPT rewrite my achievement using STAR methodology, using like situation, task, results, and etc. And it will do it for you. And then you can just check, is it correct? If yes, then you can use it. If not, you can ask to rewrite one more time, or you can do it manually. And it's already a big bench and big step of reducing your manual work. And because it's generated on a lot of tons of other CVs. One of the other example, you can find on LinkedIn some other engineers that you are, for example, recognized as a role model, like top engineer, and you can ask ChatGPT to, I don't know, improve your CV to match that engineer. Or maybe, for example, you found a vacancy and you have your CV and you can ask, update your CV to match keyword from the vacancy. And he will also do that. So you can share the whole vacancy on your CV or maybe links, and it will be working. Yeah.
Do you mean that it's job description that I like to, I'm interested in, just copy and paste it in the ChatGPT and then ask to get close to that job description or something like that?
Yep. This could work, yeah. But keep in mind that probably he will do a lot of experience that you don't have, so you need to manually review it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, on technical interviews, I will ask you something that you are not sure.
It still needs our intervention as a humans.
Yeah, of course. Victoria, do you have something to add? You're mute. Maybe you wanted to share something.
I just wanted to add about this recruiting thing that I saw pretty lots of articles on the internet about how we can embed the ChatGPT features to a regular work of recruiters like that. So I think it depends on specific person, how they react on this. But in general, I see that people are pretty good about that, about embedding new technologies. And it just shows that you are on the same page with new stuff. That's what I think from my perspective.
Yeah, thank you.
Another hand.
Yeah, it's one more from my side. So I will say the one of the almost awesome stuff that happens when the ChatGPT was released, it's integrations. We can see a lot of integrations of AI chat bots and so on everywhere. And so one hint from my side, if you're using Grammarly, just check the new feature. They it gives you ability to generate the specific, like in chat, specific words, specific speech that you wanted to have with the specific emotion. So if you're using Grammarly, please check it. It's in beta right now, but you will be expired.
Yeah, it's a good way if you're, for example, writing not so polite messages, and you can just use ChatGPT to improve it.
Yeah, you need its alter ego.
Yeah.
Да.
Okay, so someone else.
Do you have any questions left?
And will we have a video recording of the presentation?
Yes, we will have video recording, I think, like in the week, maybe, and we will post it to our YouTube channel and share it with all participants by email. So check the email. And if you don't have any questions, I think it was a very cool discussion and presentation. So thank you guys for your expertise. And we will share all the info about recording. So have a nice evening, everyone, and thank you again to joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.